Psalm 102. The psalm writer described his condition as someone who the Lord made weak while still young. His body is like burning like fire, and he's like skin and bones. He doesn't even want to eat food. So usually people who are near death like doesn't have an appetite anymore. So that's what he's like. So let's see. Beaten down like dry grass. His life is disappearing like smoke. Nothing but skin and bone, like a wild bird in the desert, an owl in abandoned ruin. Lonely. People are mocking him. His tears are mixed with his drink. His ashes are his food. And then Lord has made me weak while he is still young. He has shortened his life. And then he cries out to God again. The writer expresses trust in God because he's calling out to God, asking God to hear his prayer, knowing that God will rebuild Zion. Let's see. That God will forever remain, forever lives. God is always the same, and that his children, our children, so Israel's children, will live in safety under God's protection, and their descendants will be secure. And then that he hears his forsaken people. He will rebuild Zion. He hears the groans of prisoner and set free those who were condemned to die. He will be praised. People will worship the Lord. So all those knowing that God is in power, that God has control, and God lives forever and doesn't change, those are the characteristics and attributes of God that the psalm writer trusts in. I think I trust in God for the same reason, like through the same way. I place my trust in God's character, God's word, and even though I'm living in a pretty toxic culture, I have faith in God, and I follow what he says rather than what the culture says. I have been pretty depressed and like just distressed, just listening to the news and what's going on in the US, and it's distressing, but then I take confidence knowing that God is in control and these things must pass because his word is true, and his word tells of increased perversion, increased just toxicity, and I don't think it's as bad as the time of Lot yet, but it will come to that point. And I remember how Lot lives through that time, where just sin is rampant. I think about how Noah lived through that time, and I then feel strengthened that even though my culture or like the environment is not the ideal environment to raise children in, I can still be faithful to God and raise godly children, in despite the situation, despite the circumstances. So that's how I trust in God. I trust in Him that if I do what He says, my children will turn out to be blessed, and they won't be like just like the world. They can be in the world, but they're not of the world. So I trust that. Amen.